Just finished up the platinum for Deathloop yesterday. Up and down experience for me. It was very okay. Definitely understand how Redfall ended up the way it did now. It to me, in a lot of ways, just feels, like I mentioned before, like a weird shift in design commitment. Like when a team is really, really good at one thing, which the team at Arcane, really good at level design, really good at intricate level design where there's tons of paths in and out, but they decided to make like multiplayer games. Why? Like, why? Doesn't make any damn sense at all. And they doubled down. They started it with Deathloop, doing this like half thing, and then they shifted over and they did Redfall, which was just a disaster. I really got to hand it to Maddie on his podcast. I listened to a little bit of their latest podcast because I just wanted to hear what they were saying about some of the latest stuff. Listen to this. Maddie like actually comes out swinging, and bear in mind, this is a podcast dedicated to Xbox. Like this is an Xbox podcast, and I'll hand it to Maddie. He calls it out.
Days Gone was the last controversial kind of PlayStation game where folks thought it was misunderstood. Redfall is not a misunderstood masterpiece or something along those lines. It's just a bad video game. And Xbox fans had tolerated a lot up until that point. And the problem was we had all kind of collectively kept moving the goalposts like, okay, this is a step forward, that's a step forward, but next year, bro, next. And when the next year arrived with starting with Redfall and it didn't deliver, that's why everyone snapped. And yeah, nothing's changed. It's just now pure disappointment.
It's hard to argue with that. It's hard to argue with that. And I mean, I think he's right. It's just disappointment after disappointment. There's some tweets and posts by people that are kind of trying to cope a little bit. There was this one. Xbox releases nearly a dozen highly rated successful games, posts great financial reports, is selling consoles faster than they have in previous generations, has dozens of exciting games in the works, releases one not very good game. IGN posts this article, Starfield feels like Xbox's last chance at redemption. Which, I mean, even if we just break down what specifically is being claimed here, okay? Like a dozen highly rated successful games. Okay. 12 highly rated games. By his standard, I think those would have to be 80 plus, which if that's your standard, cool. Those are good games, even pretty good games, even great games. But usually people think of great, like highly rated games to be like 85 plus into the like A category. Like a B is a good grade, an A is a very good grade. An A is what you're going for. But like, let's give him the 12 highly rated games. Let's say, sure. Successful games, it's really, honestly, this is not like trying to be pedantic. It's just honestly hard to gauge what successful means when your game is on Game Pass. It just is. Like, we don't get to see straight player numbers. It's not clear how many new signups come for that game. It's really, really tricky to figure out, but maybe they are successful. Great financial reports. This is one where I feel like people just say shit. They just say stuff and they don't really think about it. If you try to find Xbox financial reports, what are you going to find? You are going to be searching for Microsoft annual reports where they might mention some details about their Xbox business. Right? This is, by the way, this is Xbox's annual financial report. Okay, like a $2 trillion company. It's kind of a bit of an elaborate thing. But you look at the details surrounding Xbox, like in here, it's in Satya's initial statement. With Xbox Game Pass, we're transforming how people discover. It's just like describing their overall description. Xbox Series X and X are their fastest selling consoles ever. We'll get to that more in a minute. They describe Game Pass future opportunities using Windows Cloud business, grow share of the PC market, drive engagement. Okay, all what you would kind of expect. From Surface to Xbox, we're doing stuff. more personal computing, gaming, describing this. There are no stats here. There's nothing we know. Like, they just say we continue to invest in gaming studios. Okay. Xbox Cloud Gaming utilizes Microsoft's Azure clouding technology. Okay, cool. But you can see, like, there's not a lot of details until you get down into the nitty gritty of revenue within personal computing, which is how they categorize it. And this is just what happens when you have one big business that's owned by another huge business. It all kind of gets lumped together. So to just like blindly assert that they have great financial reports, yeah, Microsoft has, but that's because Microsoft is freaking Microsoft. It's kind of easy to just throw out, yeah, they post great earning reports. It's the same thing like if you were saying, hey, PlayStation's doing well because Sony is posting good results, which isn't actually the case. Sony has been struggling recently as a total company, but like their camera markets and TV markets and all of that stuff is struggling a little bit. But it wouldn't be fair for me to be like, see, PlayStation's dying because PlayStation or Sony as a company had a bad quarter or something. It's just, they're not really related. It's a subset of the business. You know, it's more, the point is it's more complicated than that. So yeah, Xbox could be turning a profit right now. It might be losing money. It might be more complicated than that. And honestly, in some cases with big giga corporations like this, and this is something I never hear people talk about, there's such a thing as like tax deferrals. There's tax carry forwards. Like if we look at tax or operating loss carry forwards, a net operating loss, NOL, occurs when a company's allowable deductions exceed its taxable income within a tax period. The NOL can generally be used to offset a company's tax payments in other tax periods through IRS tax provisions called loss carry forwards, which basically means that if a company loses like $100 billion on investments they're making into, say, Game Pass right now in 2023, if all of the other expenses that are allowable offset their taxable income, then they don't pay taxable income because they technically lost more money than they made. But then you can carry forward, say you still had $80 billion or whatever, like 80 million even. If you just had billions of dollars left over that didn't go towards that meeting the zero mark, next year, usually, I think when I went to school, it was 7 years. You could pull back from 7 years and carry them forward, I think 3. But it might have changed because right as I left college, Trump passed the new tax bill, so it's probably different now. But at the very least, like you can carry forward a lot of those, and you can offset your income. So sometimes it's actually part of the strategy to have a company that is kind of a loss leader. You know, it's struggling to make a profit now, but you're investing really heavily for the future. So yeah, maybe. Point is, financial reports are often a little trickier than they seem. Selling consoles faster than they have in previous generations. Yeah, but like when your last generation was bad and then this one's okay, that's not, like, I guess that's better, but it's not the standard you would hope for. Dozens of exciting games in the works. Yeah, many of which were supposed to launch like a year or two ago, and we haven't really heard anything from. It's just like, the point is, there are reasons people are frustrated with Xbox right now. Just coping like this and pretending as though everything's fine and everybody's just delusional and gaslighting everybody is not helpful. Like, it just isn't. There's reasons hardcore Xbox fans are disappointed. They are. And we shouldn't like pretend as though they're crazy for being disappointed. He took my thing.